Good morning, good afternoon, or good Shenita. We're going to talk about love. What more appropriate time to talk about love than the month of February? Of course, love is has no limits on when we should talk about it, when we should share it, when we should love. However, tonight is dedicated to the month of love, and I am going to share this evening show with a special group of individuals who understand unconditional love. Not everyone really knows what that's like or have experienced that or have experienced true love, but all of us have. We are all widows or a widower, and we had the best relationship with our spouses, so we feel we're qualified to have this conversation tonight. So if you would, please like and share this broadcast tonight, and thank you for tuning in. Thank you for tuning in tonight. But we ask you to please like and share the broadcast. So, with that being said, I am going to invite my guest in to join me. And it's ladies are always first. I am going to invite Miss Shonda Ray. Good
Hi,
evening. How
good
are
evening.
you?
I'm great. How are you?
Wonderful. And next, we're going to ask Miss Janice Billingsley to join us, Shonda. Janice Billingsley, welcome.
Thank you. Hello. How is everyone this evening? Wonderful to be here.
Yes, we're so glad to have you.
Thank you.
And last but certainly not least of the ladies, Dr. Siobhan Fleming, welcome.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Yes, we're so glad to have you join us for this conversation. And certainly the man of the hour, Mr. Bernard Shaw, will join us. Good evening, Bernard.
Good evening. Glad to be here. Looking forward to it.
Yes. So I was just asking everyone to like and share the broadcast so that others can join the conversation and enjoy it with us this evening. So before we get started, I definitely want you all to introduce yourselves to the audience. And I want you to tell them when you introduce yourself, something that about yourself that will surprise the audience. So we're going to start again with the ladies. Shonda Ray, introduce yourself to the audience and tell them something that might surprise them about you.
Okay. My name is Shonda Ray. I live in Atlanta. I'm originally from St. Louis. Um, One thing that may surprise people is I have a proclamation. I have my own day, Shonda Ray Day. It's June 6th. I received that by writing a play called Vicious Circle. Um, it was about peer pressure with teens, and but I also had a message in it for the parents as well, and it went well. And when I went home, my hometown St. Louis, I was surprised with receiving the proclamation. So every June 6th is Shonda Ray Day.
I love it.
Yes.
That
All
is
right.
awesome. That is awesome. Congratulations to
Thank
you.
you. Thank
That is
you.
incredible. And Janice Billingsley, if you would introduce yourself and tell us something that would surprise the audience about you or us.
Okay. Well, my name is Janice Billingsley. You all will probably be surprised that I am a background actress. I love acting. That's one of my little secret desires and aspirations. I've been on the set with Queen Latifah. I played as a doctor on The Resident with Malcolm Jamal Warner.
Oh wow.
Love it.
And yes,
Wow.
and I'm signed up with Central Casting, and I love it. And I married my college professor, who was my African American Studies teacher. He was 11 years older than me, and he went to Yale University and taught at Yale University.
Wow. Now,
Wow.
let me just ask you this. So you were in that class with your professor. Were you acting? Is that what got his attention? Or were
Well,
you really being you?
I was really being me when I walked into that classroom and I saw that black man sitting on his desk with his white dashiki on, talking about contributions that African Americans had made to this country, whom I knew nothing about. And I fell in love with that man then. I loved his name, Burrell Billingsley. I said, I'll never meet another man that went to Yale University. I'm going to marry him.
Okay. Okay.
And you manifested that thing.
Yeah.
I love it.
And we stayed married 35 years. No one knew anything about us dating at college because we were very discreet.
Right.
And it just worked out. I admire him. I was infatuated at first and with his intellect. And it just grew into a relationship.
That is awesome.
Well, thank you.
And did you say 35 years married?
Yes.
Wow. That is a blessing. So, Dr. Siobhan Fleming, introduce yourself and tell us something that we might be surprised to know about you.
Okay. Yes. Good evening, everybody. I'm Siobhan Fleming. Fun fact or something interesting or surprising is that I'm currently working on getting tri-citizenship. So, of course, I'm American. I'm first generation American. And so I'm in the process of getting citizenship as well in Bermuda and Jamaica. And so when I first moved back to the States from Bermuda, I lived there for about 6 years. I had a heavy British accent. So imagine the surprise that I would get from most people being a Black lady in the South with a British accent. So that's another fun fact.
Wow. Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Interesting. And so you are going to have citizenship in the United States, Bermuda, and where else again?
And Jamaica. So
Jamaica.
Both of my parents are islanders. My mother from Bermuda, born there, and my father born in Jamaica. So due to my parents being citizenships, it kind of puts me a step above already to be able to obtain.
That is awesome.
It is.
I want to go visit Jamaica and Bermuda. So we might need to plan a trip, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes,
we can.
Yes. So last but certainly not least, it's always a pleasure to have this gentleman, Mr. Bernard Shaw, on the show. Will you please introduce yourself and share something that would be surprising with the audience?
Yeah, hi. Bernard Shaw, obviously, name. I would have to say I was the first African American hired in the United States as a spine specialist in the operating room. For those who are familiar with healthcare, that's a very high paying position. And, they put me through the ringer, but, I came out all right. So as being the first of anything, you have to set the trail. So, and being in the healthcare environment, you're in the operating room, mistakes can cause people's lives to be lost. And thankfully, I didn't cause any of those. So, I learned a lot in that, and happy to be an HBCU grad.
Okay.
That is awesome.
Okay.
One time for the HBCU.
Norfolk State University, home of the Marching Spartan Legion Band.
Oh.
I love it. I love it. So let's talk about this thing called love. This month is set aside to celebrate Valentine's Day, but I think I'm a Valentine's 365 days a year to somebody, right? And it's not necessarily just someone that I can call my boo. I just think that I exude love. I try to anyway. Yes. So because we're talking about it in a relational way, let's talk about what's love got to do with this thing called life. Janice Billingsley, why don't you start first?
It's funny, I was going over these questions last night with my friend, and we had it turned into a really good conversation about our relationship. But love has everything to do with a successful relationship. I believe that it's essential to the success of the marriage. It's the nucleus of the relationship because that will sustain you. Now, what people don't know is that love won't keep you in a relationship. There are other things that are important in the relationship, and that's trust and communication and respect. But you do have to go into the relationship with loving that person, because love helps you to overlook those faults. It helps you not to keep a record of wrongs.
Right.
It helps you to see the good parts, the good attributes in that person.
Yes.
But love it's the excitement in the marriage, excitement in the relationship. But sometimes that slowly, it wanes.
Yes.
And when that does, you do have to have something else that you can hold on to in the relationship. And I believe in my relationship, trust and communication was very key.
Mm-hmm.
But we did love and respect. We respected one another.
Yes.
I respected him. He respected me. And I believe that was the thing that really kept us together all those years. And the foundation, loving one another as God loves us.
Mm-hmm.
He was the center of our relationship.
Yes.
For my relationship to last 35 years, we kept God at the center of the relationship.
Yeah. That's awesome. When I think of respect, love and respect, there's a book that was written for couples, Love and Respect. Men need respect, women need love. And if we focus on giving each other what we need, we're going to get what we need. You see what I'm saying? Every time.
Absolutely.
So if we give them respect, it's going to be easy for them to love us.
Oh, yeah.
If they give us love, it's going to be easy for us to respect them.
Yes.
So I love that unconditional love, and what you said about God instructing us the way God instructs us to love is so important. So Shonda, give me your take on it.
You know what? She started out with exactly what I said. Love is everything. Love is empathy. Love is patient. You have to give each other grace in order to grow, because what I needed, the type of love language, I was married for 33 years. It changed from day one to year 30, 33. The things that maybe I needed back then, I needed something else, like in the 10th year, because we all grow, we change.
Yes.
And what may have been essential 5 years ago may not be essential in the next 5 years. So that's what I think love is. And I'm going to agree with Janice. After you argue, you disagree, you go through the joy and pain of whatever life throws at you, you always can rely on the love that you have for one another. And that's what everybody, a marriage, a friendship, your children, everybody, we all need that. We all need love to some degree.
Yes, absolutely.
That's what helps a human thrive.
Ooh.
That's it.
Yeah.
Perfectly said. Perfectly said.
Yes.
Siobhan, you got something to come behind that? I'm just asking you.
That's a smidget I can add, because these ladies have said some amazing points. I agree with everything. Like the young lady before me, love is patient, love is kind. That's one of my favorite Bible verses. Now, I will add, I think I have a little bit of an unpopular opinion in regards to, I think love is enough. That, that infamous question, is love enough? Mm-hmm. And I think it is, because I feel like if you genuinely and truly love somebody, the rest will follow. I think that we can fall out of love, and then that's when a lot of times those other things fall and crumble. Mm-hmm. But it just, from my personal experience, I feel like when you unconditionally love someone, you're willing to do all and to make it work and to fight for it and to make sure that they're happy, and in return you're happy. And so I think that's the center, the starting point. And like I said, everything else follows with it, because all of those are key components. You have to have them all. But I it's a little bit difficult to do some of those things for people if you don't love them, right? So starting and leading with love, I think it makes it seamless or easy. Like the infamous question as well, especially in this day and era, they say, can a woman submit? If a man, if she's loved properly, it's effortless for her to submit, even that alpha woman. So I think love is the hierarchy, the top of it for me.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
I love it. And I say, I love the part when you said love is kind, because so many times we miss that, right?
Yeah.
Love, and we might not have a good day at work, or we might not even have a good day at home. Are we able to still be kind to the person that we say we love, or the people that we say we love?
Yeah.
So, and Janice said it earlier, love does not record wrongs. And so it's a different kind of love. That agape love is a different kind of love. And my husband showed that to me. I think I learned it best from my mother, and I learned it best from my husband, what that looks like. It records no wrongs, and you're able to just love people for who they are.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Um,
absolutely.
so Bernard, what does love have to do with it?
Whole lot. Love is the glue. Let me repeat that. Love is the super glue that keeps people
Yeah.
together. And you love somebody, you mentioned agape love, unconditional. You have to, when you in that relationship and you have agape love for your lady, there's nothing you all cannot achieve together.
Yeah.
You forgive each other, you support each other, you understand each other's love language. It may not be the same when you first got together, but
Yeah.
once you know what it is, you know how to do it right.
That's it. I love it. I mean, you guys have you guys
Yeah.
have nailed it. And I want to say too that sometimes the heart of a person attracts us, and I think if the heart is good, it'll keep us too. And we're in that dating scene, as we're, because I'm sure some people are watching that are dating, they may not be married, but they may be in that phase where they're dating someone. I think it's important to look at the heart before you leap over into the I do phase. It is important for you to see who you are going to be connected with if the goal is marriage. It may not be, but I'm just saying, look at the heart of a person. I've talked to many people, many people. I probably would have missed my husband if I just looked at the exterior, but I looked at his heart. And so I want to encourage people who may be watching, as you're thinking about love, sometimes it goes beyond the surface of what you can see. Look at their heart. What is their heart represent? What does that represent to you?
Right.
So thank you for that. When was the first time you said I love you to someone in your life other than a family? Were you a teen? Were you an adult? What was the first time that you said I love you to someone? Bernard.
Wow,
Mhm.
that's a good question, and I thought about that, and when I was younger, I was trying to be, Mac Daddy. So I used to say, oh baby, I'm crazy about you. Oh, I think about you all the time, but I never said I loved them. The first lady I said I loved to was the one I married.
Oh,
As
Really?
an adult. That's right.
okay.
Even the
Wow.
lady I live with, I'm crazy about you, baby. She was, but I never said I loved her.
Wow.
Mm.
Wow. Isn't that something? Why
Yeah.
do you think you didn't?
Well, I was unwilling to open up my heart to those ladies in the past.
There you go.
And you mentioned earlier in discussion trust and respect. Now, you can, be with somebody who stops traffic and everybody says how fine she is, and she's fine too. But, it's more than that as far as love's concerned. Like I said, the only lady I ever said I loved was only one I ever asked to marry me, and that was my former wife.
Wow. And that was your first marriage.
It's my first marriage.
And you married at how old were you when you married
I
the first
was
time?
51. I had my fun
Wow.
now.
Wow.
I had a good time. I ain't gonna lie to you. But those are memories. They will stay memories.
Right. Right.
but and it's you love is awesome. Love is can give you light when there's dark.
Yes.
Love can give you happiness when there's sadness.
Mhm.
One of my favorite songs, Temptations, My Girl. I
Right.
got sunshine on a cloudy day. Woo! Can't
That's
beat it.
true. Yes, indeed. And I just put up, eros, the erotic, passionate love, right? And philia, the love of friends and equals, and then storge or storage, the love of parents for children, and then agape is the love of mankind. And so, we're talking about eros, really, when we think of Valentine's Day, but I think all of it applies because I still, I have a love for my children and I still show them love during this holiday. I always find something for the grands. I always try to make it special for them, for my adult children as well. But, all of us, are speaking tonight from this eros place, the passionate love that we have for our spouses. And I want to make sure people understand we're speaking from it from an experience of a very healthy relationship with our spouses who no longer exist, right? They're no longer here. And so the love that we share with them is definitely possible for anyone to experience. We just have to make sure that we connect with the right people during that phase. Would you all agree?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I agree.
Any comment on that?
No, that was clear.
Yeah. So I know Janice
was right on.
My next question was, when did you know you loved your spouse? Janice said early when she walked into that classroom and she saw him in the white dashiki. She knew that he was the one. He didn't know. How long was it before he knew, Janice?
Well, I was so interested in learning about us as a people and culture, Black culture, and just because he was just so far out there, somebody who takes your mind and takes you further than you've ever been able to, you know what I mean? It's just, he was just so, he's intellectual, but at the same time, down to earth.
Right.
And because I had so many questions, it kind of started off, it was a teacher-student relationship. I didn't go in there and say, I'm marrying you. I didn't do that. And that was my own little secret. But it started off with me just really asking questions and wanting to learn more about Black history. And he we started, he started teaching me after class and all that kind of stuff. And he was hard on me too. Oh my God, that man was hard. But then the attraction and infatuation, it started to turn into emotion and affection. And I'm like, hey, I love this man, and he started asking me to go out with him. And, as it turned out, we lived in the same apartment complex.
Oh,
and he had a raggedy car, and his car would always break down. And so he found out that I started giving him a ride to school, to college. It was funny, crazy. A green Volkswagen.
But he ended up being your husband.
Uh-huh.
And
it was just like you said, it just evolved. It evolved into a relationship. And I guess maybe about 6 months, maybe 7 months, and we just kind of kept it on the down low. And, it was exciting. It really was.
That is awesome. Winston was 11 years older than me, and he had a lot of energy. And I heard you say Burrell was 11 years older than you. Yeah. So, he probably had a lot of energy at the time when y'all met too. And you had that energy. So the synergy was great.
Yeah, it was.
And you said something a minute ago about intellect. Like I'm a sapiosexual person, right? So if you penetrate my mind, then you'll have me, right? So I love that intellectual person.
Yeah,
right. It is something about them that just really gets me.
Yes, I mean, all he had to do was start just popping off those history facts, and I'm like, whoa, okay.
Oh, that is too cute right there. And Janice, I know that you have to leave us soon, but
I do.
I know you said as soon as you walked in, you knew. And tell us about the journey of your marriage before you leave, and then I want you to share just a piece of advice for anyone out there. So if you would kind of walk us through the journey, and then share a piece of advice before you leave.
This is different from the questions. He had been divorced about 5 years when I met him. And when we finally decided that we was begin to date, it was just, like I said, it was very exciting. I learned a lot from him. I grew up, I was just, at the time, my daughter always said, Mama, you were just 19 years old when you met Daddy. And he had two children. And so the relationship evolved, and I became really involved with his children. And we just kind of took things very slowly, though, really slow. He was a kind man. He was compassionate. I loved his love for community. Like I said, he didn't allow, nobody knew that he had gone to Yale University. He was not that kind of person. He was not pompous or any of that. He worked with the homeless, and he could speak, intellectually, intelligently, but at the same time, he could go, what's happening? What's going on, baby? Hey, what's up? Like
Absolutely.
that. And that was just amazing to me that he could change like that. And so the relationship evolved into us getting involved in church. He was politically involved. A lot of times I helped him in campaigns that he was working on. Who's that? Miss Janice had a cheat sheet. I did not. And, I graduated from college, and at that point we were just we decided we would get married. And his children loved me. I loved them. And my mother loved him. And I think that we helped each other. He helped me to grow up. And there were some things that he needed too in his life that I provided for him. And as we began to evolve with one another and grow and connect and go to church, he loved God. I loved God. He didn't want to make the same mistakes that he had made, that he felt like he'd made in his first marriage. So we wanted to make sure that we were developing something that was going to last and a solid foundation. And that's what we did. One of the things I loved about him was that he loved his children. When he realized that he was going to have to take his children and raise them, he said to me, I know that this is not what you signed up for, but I've got to take my children. I respected that because I knew that if he was that kind of man and he wanted to take care of his children and raise his children, then when we had children, then he would do the same thing. And he turned out to be one of the best fathers that there was. My children's pediatricians used to say, I don't know another man that knows about their kids' medical history like this man.
Wow.
And his children, Kali and Jameek, became my children. Nobody knows that they were, I call them my love children.
Your bonus children.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so that's kind of how the journey started, and we learned to grow with one another. We was living in an apartment at the time. Then we got our first house, and then we built a house and got larger cars. He finally got rid of that raggedy Volkswagen he had. People see you at the end of a relationship, but they don't know what you've gone through.
Right.
And because he was a professor, everybody, people think, oh, I know he has money. And it wasn't that way, because he'd been divorced. A lot of things happened financially that he had to deal with. And that's another thing, too, that's important. I didn't look at what he had. I looked at his heart. I looked at his heart and his potential. Now I wouldn't do that now at 65. You got to already have done it. Don't deal with somebody based on potential. You got to be there now.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, but his heart, he was so kind. He was so respectful. He admired me, my tenacity, the fact that I would come to class. And sometimes people go to school, go to college, and they hang around the school. And I never did that. I was working 2 jobs when he met me. Mm-hmm. And he felt like, you're just different from the other students. Mm-hmm. And the fact that he was willing to keep everything, discreet. And he would tell me, he'd say, I know about being discreet, but you just kind of rude when you come in the classroom. Good morning, Mr. Billingsley. How are you? That's what I would say. Yeah, but we had a good journey. And as it turned out, we joined the church, and he became the director of the Men's Fellowship Committee. worked at workforce development for Fulton County after he got out of the school system. And we just had a wonderful life. We loved vacationing together. And like I said, we have 4 sons and a daughter, and we just tried to raise them to the best of our ability. And I think we did pretty good. Everybody's doing pretty good. And we talk about him. There's not a setting that we, when we get together, his name does not come up.
Yes.
You know,
And I just love how you affectionately talk about being the widow of Burrell Billingsley. And so I know that he had to be a special man, you know, because you are an incredible woman, and I've watched you with those adult children, your bonus kids, and I see how they love you. And so that speaks volumes.
Yeah, I love him more even in his death. And if I had to say something to anybody, I would say, do not sweat the small stuff. And we had problems along the way. And one of the things that we decided that we would do was not to attribute the worst motives to one another. You know, if something offended me, then I don't want to think that, oh, how did he do that? Why did he do that? You know, so let's talk about it and let's see why this happened. And because some of the stuff that I used to think was so important is so trivial now. Things that I mentioned to maybe a counselor, I wish I'd never done that, because it pales in comparison to who he really was.
Right.
And one of the last things is, I see now why in marriage they talk about dying to yourself, because I can't think of one bad thing about that man. Nothing. I really can't. It's like, I can't think of anything bad about him. I think about the wonderful attributes, the compassion, the love, the kindness, the way he cared for me, the way he always commented about how beautiful he thought I was. Because recently I looked at some pictures of me about 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago, and I'm like, wow, who was that? Not one time did that man every time I left out the door, he made me think that I was the most beautiful woman that there was, and that there was nothing that I could not accomplish.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Truly, we were blessed with 2 amazing men, and I'm sure Shonda and Siobhan can say that as well.
Yes.
But you and I have shared so many stories, and it's amazing how you and your husband knew Winston and Elaine.
Yeah, that's true.
It is such a small world, and so I just want to just say thank you for sharing the love that you share with Burrell. I didn't get to meet him, but I'm so glad that I got to meet you and to know about him through you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, he was a wonderful guy. His name is to be mentioned.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So I thank you for taking the time. I know that you have some more important things to take care of and places to be, but we just thank you for pausing for a moment and coming and sharing that love that you shared with your husband.
And I hope I said something that somebody can use, you know.
Yes.
I really do. And thank you. Thanks to all of you. And I always feel like we're family, because we share love. We share the love of our lives, you know. And so I'm just always blessed to be in your presence. It was good seeing you too, Bernard, Shonda.
Good to be here.
Siobhan,
You
good
too.
seeing you the other night.
Okay, praying for you guys tonight.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, thank you so much. The right family.
The right family.
The right family. Yes. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
I'll be in
Have a
touch.
good night.
Okay.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
So Janice has a wonderful story, as we all do. And so let's talk about some of the comments. My friends are on the show tonight. Robin and Michelle, my homegirls. Hey ladies, so glad to see you all and everyone else that's joining us this evening. So thank you for tuning in. We just want to speak about love because it's possible. We want to give hope to anyone out there who has not experienced love in the way that they feel they deserve, that hopefully you don't give up and it will come to you soon. And while you're waiting, prepare for it. So with that being said, we're going to go back to the questions with you all. So ladies, when did you know that your husband was the one? Or when did he know you were the one? When did you know?
For me, I knew that my husband was different. I met him in my early 20s. We got married at 26, and he was different. He loved me different than I had been loved before. Just little examples that he would do. And again, I was, we were pretty young at the time, so it wasn't that I had a whole ton to compare it to, but I just knew it was like something I hadn't experienced before. But just like on his birthday, I would leave for work and my car would be full of gifts from him on his birthday. Um, and then on my birthday, he would, of course, do for me as well. And I remember when we were dating, he went to Clayton County and paid for my tag. And I was like, "Is that my birthday gift?" And he was like, "No, of course not." So I was like, "Oh." But he would just, as they would say, a man would be a protector, provider, and profess. He provided. He did those things. He protected. He professed, and it was very clear, without a shadow of a doubt, he had no problem professing and all of those things. Like he exceeded in each one of those areas again like none other. And when I share with people that I'm a widow and their first reaction is somber and sad, and I tell them, you don't be sad for me. Of course I miss and still love him dearly, but I experienced the love that most people don't experience in their lifetime. So for that, I'm grateful. I'm so grateful.
Yes, you said that perfect. We truly have experienced the love that a lot of people won't experience. And so I am grateful, just as you, and I'm sure Shonda and Bernard are as well, and Janice, that we can hold that near and dear to our heart. If we choose to love again, we can. If we
Yeah.
choose not to love again, we know that we loved and we loved well, right? Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and I heard you say that you carried your husband's remains back with you from that trip. And I cannot even imagine what that was like for you to be coming back from Bermuda from a vacation with your husband, and you left side by side, and now you're carrying his remains
Wow.
in a container.
Mm.
I can't even imagine what that was like for you. Can you
Yeah.
share that with us?
Absolutely. It was definitely unbelievable. I feel like I was probably in a state of shock for about a year, or at least. Um, I was with my son, my husband, and my grandmother, and we had just been through a lot already. And so that was kind of a trip of gratitude because he stood by me through so much. So just a little bit of quick history, not to be too long, but in uh, 2015, I lost my mother, and that was my first loss ever. So a pretty low blow for such a close loss. And then 2016, a lady ran a red light and almost killed me. And
Mm.
so I spent all of 2017 learning how to walk again, and I have a metal plate in my hip. So that was a lot, to say the least. And so when I tell you he showed up and showed out in the midst of all of that for me, I mean, he was truly my superhero. And
Mm,
we didn't skip a beat with me being sick and out of work and all that. I mean, he literally just showed up and showed out. And with God as well, of course, being the center of our relationship. But so after all that, I was like, let's just take a trip. Let's take a vacation. Let's get away after all that we had been through. And then for us to do that, and he passed away, that it was a bit much, to say the least. So I had to, at that point, get our son home, my grandmother, who was almost 90 at the time, and carrying. I remember it like was yesterday, literally toting all three of them through the airport, because my son's all over the place, and so my grandma, she's in the wheelchair, and then my husband's remains in my other arm. That was a burden or a carry that I will never forget. But and it was his first time leaving the country, so to never make it home.
wow.
Mm.
Yeah,
And you look so incredibly well.
Right.
And
yeah,
we know what grief is like, especially from losing a spouse. We all know that, right?
Right.
yeah,
And to look at us today, it's nothing but God that pulled us through, and great family members and great friends and wonderful memories, right?
yeah.
Right.
That we had.
Right.
So I'm just grateful to know you. and to
Oh,
see the strength,
likewise. Thank you.
the strength that you exude and the tenacity that you have to keep going, and being the light for so many others. And so that's why it was important for us to share tonight the love, like true love with
Yeah,
people who desire it, who may not have experienced it, that it's possible.
Right.
yeah,
You
it
know,
is. It's possible.
yeah. Bernard said at 51 he married again. I was in my late 40s when Winston and I, well, about 45. And Shonda, you were with your husband for what, 30 something years,
33.
33 years. So, we definitely know what it looks like. And
Yeah.
my
The
other,
good, bad, and the ugly.
the good, bad,
And
and
it gets
ugly.
ugly. It
Yeah.
can get ugly at times.
Yes.
It
Yes.
can,
How did
absolutely.
you know, Shonda, that your husband was the man?
We have a real crazy story. I couldn't stand my husband at first. I hated him.
Wow.
When
My
we met,
husband couldn't stand me
he used
either. But
he
okay.
was he was a deputy at my mom's job. And he came off as if like he was arrogant. And every time he knew who I was, so I shouldn't have had to walk through the metal detector. So when I went to go see my mom, he would always say, "Get her," and make me go through it, and he'll keep beeping the stuff, just to give me problems or whatever. And I was like, I cannot stand him. And so we met out one night at a club. I had just got my first car, and my cousin lived up the street, and she wanted to go out, and she liked him. She liked him, and but he kept talking to me, and I was like, she's getting ready to get mad or whatever, and she did. To this day, she doesn't speak to me, but we I'm serious, we were really close. We lived 4 houses from each other, whatever. And the rest was history or whatever. But we dated. He came to my door, my mom's door, and she was like, oh my God, I cannot believe, because she saw him like every day. When he would call, she didn't know his name was Kenny Ray, but they called him Ray. And so that's what I called him, like Ray. And so when he came to the door, my mom was like, not you, but they liked each other, whatever. He had a little crush on my mom, actually.
Right.
And so my first daughter, she's not biologically his, so she was 2, but he fell in love with her. And I always say I think we got together because of her. Because when I took her up on his job or whatever, he was like, that's not your baby, that's your sister. And I was like, no, that's my child. And I liked how when we would go out and I would say, well, I have to ask my mom to babysit, he would say, no, we're going to take her with us. So we would take her. So that's the first thing. And then the other thing one of you guys mentioned is potential. He didn't make a lot of money at the time. He was a police officer or whatever, but he was very, 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 very smart. And so eventually he went back to school as a computer engineer. And so when we relocated down here, I told him I don't want him to be a police officer because I'm real scary and nervous and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so he told me, he said, if you allow me to go back to school, and you just kind of help me through this, you don't have to work if you don't want to. So I was off for like 11 years.
Wow.
And I went back to school to get a degree, and that's how I was able to write my play and do some things that I really like to do. And that's when I really sharpened up my writing skills and everything. And so I've always appreciated my husband, but I think, like I said, that growth, we have to grow. Sometimes we take so much for granted, and you beating the pavement, you're going to work, you raising your children, and you don't really get to experience each other. And when he first became the engineer, he traveled, and he sometimes was gone like 30 days at a time. And so I may not see him but for 2 days the weekend. And I would be mad because I'm like, I have to deal with the kids by myself, the household and this, that, and the other. But it paid off. And so once they grew up, that's when I really started really seeing him for who he truly. So he was like a jack of all trades. My husband played chess. He was a DJ on the side. He loved history, so he tracked his ancestors and all that type of stuff. I wouldn't get into it, but he was always busy. um You know how people always say men don't do anything, they just lazy. No, I was the lazy one. He
Right.
did, he cooked. You know, he once I found out he knew how to cook, I said,
It was
okay.
over.
And I mean, I did like, I can cook, but not like he cooked, like for real. You know,
Right.
the whole Thanksgiving, Christmas thing, whatever. And he grilled and stuff like that. So he washed clothes, he folded up clothes, he just was always busy all the time. So um like Stevon, we were on vacation. We that the last year that we had, he was 50, he was 2 weeks from being 56 when he passed. And so normally his birthday was 4th of July. We were always with people every 4th of July. It was always people want to come over and you know, because he was like, you know, like music and you know, making drinks and food and everything. But that last year, his 55th birthday, I kicked and screamed and said, we're not having anybody. He had family members wanted to come down. His friends wanted to come down. I was like, no. I took him to a steakhouse. He used to love steak. He was a foodie anyway, but I took him to this place called Frankie's.
Mm-hmm.
Frankie's Steakhouse in it's in Gwinnett off of Sugarloaf.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, so when it came time to pay the bill, he couldn't stand it. He wanted to pay that bill. I think that bill came up to like $350, and he was like, "You got it." I was like, "Yeah, I got it. I ain't want to have it, but I had it, whatever." Because he always did really, really big things for me. You know, it's nothing that I didn't want, that he didn't make it happen for me. So we went and it all made sense that was his last birthday, and it was just he and I, you know, and I took that for granted, even though I wanted it. And then the same thing on our last vacation, we were supposed to go with some friends. They bailed out at the last minute. And he called me at work and he said, hey, our friends, they say they can't go. And we had got this big, huge Airbnb or whatever. He said it's going to be too big. So our kids, they had other plans, so they couldn't go. So long story short, we wound up being by ourselves, and that happened to be the Labor Day of 2018. And 2 months later, he was diagnosed. So it's like everything we did, it was like God was
Yeah, him.
preparing me that it was just us two, you know, all the time. And so when he called me, he tried to bail out. He said, "Well, why don't we skip it?" And I remember saying these exact words: "We need to go, because you never know what's going to change." And I don't know what made me say that. And he said, "What do you mean? You know, my job is secure. What are you worried about?" And I said, "I don't know. I just feel like we should go." That was our last vacation.
Mm-hmm. Is
And
that
so,
something?
yeah. And so that when I think about it, when I think back to 2018, starting from January, we did something special and phenomenal each month. You know, we just kept doing stuff or whatever and then it all came to me. And I had a premonition, and I called my mom one day. It was just a feeling I had like months before he was diagnosed. And I told my mom, I said, something is going on in the atmosphere. I don't know what it is, but I think it's something wrong with, you know, with Kenny or whatever. And so, and it was, or whatever. And it happened so fast. You
Mm.
know, it's like he was like 180, 190 pounds. So when he died, he was like 60 pounds. He was like unrecognizable. You know, pancreatic cancer is
It's
the
rough.
worst.
It's
Yeah,
rough.
it's like the worst one or whatever. So, but we had some, like I said, I'm not one to paint a marriage like it's all a bed of roses, because we know it's not.
Right.
So, you know, we definitely had our challenges, but I knew his potential, and that's what made me love him, you know, as I did, is the potential that he had. And he loved his family the
That's
best that he could, you know. So he tried to do, you know, even when he got sick, he apologized every day. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry this happened, you know. And I told him that when that time came, I wasn't going to be selfish and tell him, you know, please stay. And I remember when he got real weak and he couldn't talk, and I said, you know, that conversation we had, because we had many, you know. And I said, you know, and I don't, to this day, I don't know how I had the strength to do this, but I said, it's time. You got to go home. And he shook his head. He got enough strength to just shake his head, you know. And I said, what are you worried about? And he lifted his finger up and he pointed. me. And I said, don't worry about me. I'm going to be okay.
Mhm.
And I think like 4 days later, that was it. But I try not to dwell on the sadness. I try to remember
On the good times,
the
right?
times and everything. Yeah.
And the beautiful thing, like I said earlier, is all of us experienced a wonderful love, not a perfect love, because we know
Right.
that doesn't exist, but we
Right.
had spouses who were perfect for us to travel the journey. And with
Right.
that being said, Bernard, how did you know your sweetie was the one?
Uh-oh.
We, yeah, we worked in the same building on different floors, and it got to the point I was down at her desk, she was up at my desk. We were spending so much time talking. And I said, "Wow, okay." So, and all those conversations were in-depth conversations, not anything superficial. So it was one time that we went out, and great conversation. Took her out, had some food. Everything was cool. And I just said, "Hey, this has got to be the lady for me." Because we can talk. And I know one time we spent a whole night watching movies and talking all night long. Did not know until the sun came up about, oh, wow, we've been here all talking. And we can have that kind of communication with somebody. That is a very telling sign.
Right.
And now she was a bit younger than me now. She was 14 years younger than me. But
Mhm,
it was all good. And she had some health issues when I married her. She was sick when I married her. But
mhm,
when
Mm.
you love somebody how they are.
mm.
Yeah.
And one of the proudest things that I can say when we initially got married was she told me she wanted to see if she can get her career back. She played on NYPD Blue back a few years ago. I didn't know that when I married her. And so I said, look, I'm going to take a second job and allow you to quit this job. So I was able to make enough money in my second job to allow her to go around to the office, all them other haters. My husband, he let me, I can quit my job. I'm going to pursue my career. That's why we came here to Atlanta. So it was, and you love somebody, like I said, she had serious health issues, but that was not going to deter me from loving her.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of that. It was great memories. And, I'm still here. So God got something else in store for me. I don't know what it is, but I'm just make sure I'm prepared.
Yes. And it's funny because I knew your wife before y'all married. And I
Hmm.
met her through Doug Hodge, who was an actor, and she came
Right.
down for
Right.
his thing. And me and Winston, we met her. And I
Hmm.
followed her on Facebook. And so I kind of watched the journey when you guys got married. I was so
Okay.
excited. And then got to meet you, and you guys came and celebrated with me after he passed. Do you remember that?
I remember that. I remember
Yeah.
that.
And I'm like, look how we are all connected,
Hmm.
in some type of way. All of us are connected with these wonderful, wonderful memories of our amazing spouses. And will you love again? That's what I want to know. Will for me, I am open to love. I just don't want to be hooked up with the wrong person.
I don't know at this point. I don't. I don't think I want to marry again. I think it's a little fear there. I think I'm kind of traumatized of you know, watching my husband go through. I just don't think I can go through that again. Am I open to having a fulfilling relationship with one person? Absolutely. At some point, I
Mhm,
tried the dating thing.
mhm.
It's so, oh my God, it's a
It's
whole nother.
different.
It's so different. It's like it's no respect anymore. They just go right to. They don't even try to like play and wine you and dine you anymore. You
They
know what
just
I
want to go
mean?
straight to the bed. Just go
They
ahead
go
and say
straight.
it.
That's
That's
all they
it.
talk. I mean,
That's
the
straight.
things that one guy, I met him and he straight up just said, I just want to take you to a cabin and you put on a wife beater t-shirt so we can all hang out in some boy shorts. And I was like, oh, really? Okay. So I said, you know what I want? I said, I need my car paid off. And he was like, wait a minute, you asking me? I said, see, but you can ask for what you want, but
Let
I
me
can't.
ask you what I want.
You know what I mean? And so I was like, well, since we gonna all put it on the table, then that's what we gonna do. And
Mhm.
so, and then I dated somebody that really I shouldn't have. He was a friend, and really it messed up the friendship. And it
Yeah.
was long distance, and I like the long distance thing because I don't want to be with a person every day, all day, or whatever. And I thought that it would make it exciting that,
Right.
he can come visit me, and he was in my hometown. So I'm like, hey, I can go visit my mom, my family, or whatever. And I was making the commute because I have the flexibility on my job.
Mhm.
Man, it didn't work
Let's take-
out.
Yeah.
He was playing games, and I was like,
No.
but yeah, he just played so many games. He was very envious, you know what I mean? Because the things that I like to do, and Janice, Shenita,
Yes.
like if I see, when I'm with my brother and different people, whatever, he didn't understand the dynamics of it. These just my friends or whatever.
Mhm.
And he was just very envious. But see, the one thing about my husband, sometimes my husband would go with me when I go to these places, these events, and sometimes he was like, girl, just have a good time.
Right.
That's the type of relationship we had. And I just don't have time for the shenanigans. And I mean, when I tell you, I'm talking about these older 50 and 60 old men making these, playing these games. It's unbelievable.
No pun intended, Bernard.
Hey.
No pun intended. Will you date again, Bernard?
Absolutely.
I know you will.
Will you open yourself up for love?
Well, if it develops into love, that's great. I'm not going to rule it out. I'm not going to rule anything out. I'm looking forward to tomorrow and what tomorrow's got to bring. I'm going to grasp it, work with it, and keep going.
Okay.
So help us understand, Siobhan, before I ask this last question, because we have 4 minutes. Would you love again?
Absolutely. I'm at that place where I have found love again, and it's a beautiful thing. I have been dating my guy for about a year now. It took a minute to get there. I was that girl that compared everything to my husband at first.
Oh, yeah.
I was just like, you are not my husband. You don't do this. You don't do this. So he truly set the bar. And so it took me a minute to let my guard down and get there. But I've met someone that is really, really awesome. I am open to marriage again. I don't know if we're it's still so new, so I can't say we're going there, but we're having a good time, and I'm enjoying it. And he's an awesome person, because I think it takes a very special person to date a widow and be okay with if I miss him when his birthday comes and things like that. Because I've heard stories of people being intimidated or not okay with that. And
absolutely.
Like, how can you be insecure about someone that's no longer here?
But they
Right.
But it happens. I had that issue too.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm excited that you have found love again, as well as Janice.
Yes.
And so it's wonderful when I see my and I call family, bonus family, in this world of us who've lost our spouses are embracing love again. I absolutely just love that. And so Bernard says he's not going to count it out. We can start. Look, we can start out. We can start out and see where it goes.
Yeah.
So Bernard, how are we supposed to handle these men who want to go straight to the bed? I just need you to help us with that.
Well, it's I like the way it was explained earlier. Well, you think you have the permission to ask this? Well, guess what? Now I got the permission to ask this,
Right.
which, and we talk about, we've all gone through the years and the lust was there and the physical attraction was so strong. But as the years have gone by and we have perspective now, men who just want to go to bed, and, we all like doing it. So we keep in mind.
It's healthy for you. So let me just say that. But okay, go ahead.
Oh, yes. Okay. So we can, we got to show respect. That's it. I mean, because if a man doesn't respect you, he's not going to treat you the way that you deserve to be treated. And that needs to be brought out right up front. After, hi, how are you? This is one. Okay, where you from? Right. And if there's some connection there, great. Hey, we can talk on the phone. A few conversations, a question. You'll find out what's going on. But that key respect discussion has got to be made. That way, his expectations are not going to be what he thinks they're going to be, and you'll be able to know, hey, I'm letting you know right up front. As you mentioned earlier, you want to ask me to go to bed? Guess what? I want you to pay my car off. What's the problem?
There you
And if you can't pay my car off, goodbye.
Right. You know, and I'm not even that type of person, but since you want to go there, let us both go there,
Right.
you know.
Right. Yes. So I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you all for sharing this evening with me. You guys know that you're near and dear to my heart, and I just love and appreciate each of you for who you are individually, and us as a group, I absolutely adore. And so I hope that someone that has watched the show, that will watch it in the replay, will enjoy or be inspired by our stories. We'll reach out to you guys. You might even have some proposals, Bernard.
Like I said, the door is open. You know, you never know what tomorrow's gonna bring.
Yeah,
Okay.
you got some fans on here, Miss Taj.
That's my friend Taj.
Taj, yeah, she said
Yeah.
that's right, Mr. Bernard. So yes, and our home girl, my home girl Deborah, Bernard, you are so right. She says, you know who that is, Deborah, and Wale, and my homegirl Robin says, "Oh Lord, Doc is something else."
Yes.
Thank you all for sharing your stories with us. So I just want to say thank you again. Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy
And
Valentine's Day.
congratulations, Siobhan. Congratulations
Yes.
to you.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Yes. So, as always, thank you all, audience, for joining us. And please tune in next Thursday. We're going to talk about coffee. I'm going to have a young man who is from my hometown, who is a mentee, who's starting his coffee business and opening up a coffee shop in Birmingham, Alabama. And I have the opportunity to work with his team. So I'm super excited to share his greatness with you all. So remember, I love you, but God loves you most. He loves you best. Peace, love, joy today and always. Stay blessed. And you guys stay tuned. Don't leave.
Okay.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.